Chapter 1. The Wolf in the Road. The storm found her first. Rain hammered the windshield like 1,000 tiny fists, each one demanding she turn back. Wipers dragged across the glass in frantic arcs, barely clearing enough space for Amelia to see the narrow mountain road ahead. Pines loomed on either side, black and skeletal against the bruised purple sky. "Come on, Emmy. Just a little farther," she whispered to herself, fingers white-knuckled on the steering wheel. The radio was off. She couldn't stand the noise. Her head was already full. Flashes of glass shattering, Leo's voice rising, the dull burn of shame under her skin. The purple-green bruise along her ribs ached every time she drew breath, a fading reminder of the last time she'd stayed too long. Never again. A lightning flash ripped across the sky, turning the world white for a heartbeat. Amelia flinched, stomach tightening. Then the darkness rushed back in, thicker than before. The GPS had lost signal 20 minutes ago. The only guidance she had now was the memory of a handwritten note from her aunt. Cabins up past Miller's Ridge, after the old bridge. If you reach the burned tree, you've gone too far. Call me when you get there. Her phone lay face down on the passenger seat. No signal. Of course. The road curved sharply left. She eased her foot off the gas, tires hissing over wet gravel. The forest pressed close. The world narrowed to twin beams of headlights, and the hollow thump of her pulse in her ears. Almost there, she lied. Another flash of lightning seared her vision, followed immediately by thunder so loud it rattled her teeth. The car shuddered. Amelia's breath hitched, and that's when she saw it. Eyes. Pale, silver eyes caught in her headlights, low to the ground. Amelia slammed her foot on the brake. The car fish-tailed on the slick road. Her heart lurched as the headlights swept across the figure standing in the center of the lane. It was a wolf. Not a regular wolf, if there was such a thing. This one was enormous, its shoulders nearly reaching the hood of the car. Its fur was a deep, shadowed gray that seemed to drink the light, rain sliding off it in rivers. Those eyes, cold, bright, impossibly intelligent, locked on hers through the glass, as if it could see straight into her. "Oh my God," she breathed, too stunned to be afraid. The car skidded sideways, momentum dragging it toward the ditch. Time stretched. She jerked the wheel instinctively, but it was too late. The tires lost their grip completely. The world tilted. There was a sickening drop, a crunch of metal, and then the air was knocked out of her as the car slammed to a stop against something unseen below the road. Silence, except for the rain. Amelia gasped, lungs burning, mind blank with shock. The seatbelt cut into her shoulder. A shard of pain flared at the back of her skull. She blinked, vision blurring around the edges. "Okay," she whispered hoarsely. Okay, I'm fine. I'm fine." Her hands trembled as she reached for the seatbelt and fumbled. It refused to move at first. Her chest compressed, panic clawing up her throat. Then it clicked free, and her body sagged forward with a shaky breath of relief. The car was tilted at a diagonal angle, nose down. She must have slid halfway into a shallow ravine at the side of the road. The dashboard lights flickered. The engine sputtered, then went quiet. The world dimmed to the smudged glow of her hazard lights, pulsing faint red against the rain. "Perfect," she muttered weakly. "Just perfect." A sharp ache throbbed at her temple. She lifted her fingers to it and hissed when they came away slick with something wet and sticky. Blood. Not a lot, but enough to make her stomach dip. Amelia swallowed, She was alone, in the middle of a mountain road, in a storm, and there had been a wolf. A snarl cut through the rain. Her head snapped up, breath freezing in her lungs. Something moved in front of the car. A shape, darker than the night. Heavy footfalls splashed on wet earth as it approached. The beam of the left headlight, tilted upward at an odd angle, caught a glimpse of fur again. Gray. Massive. Her heart slammed against her ribs. The wolf. It emerged into the angled light, its movements fluid, predatory. Up close, it was even bigger than she'd thought, muscles shifting beneath its soaked pelt, paws sinking into the mud. Water streamed off its muzzle. Those pale eyes glowed faintly, silver coins in its stark, feral face. Emilia's hand flew blindly across the seat beside her, searching for her phone. Her fingers closed around it. She didn't look away from the creature, fingers shaking as she tried to wake the screen. No service. 0 bars. Fear pulsed in her throat like a second heartbeat. "Go away," she whispered under her breath, though the windows muffled her voice completely. "Just go." The wolf didn't go. It stepped closer, its head lowered, nostrils flaring as if scenting the air, scenting her. Those eyes flicked over the wrecked car, then locked with hers again. For a moment, everything else, the storm, the pain, the lingering echoes of Leo's anger, faded to nothing but that connection. It was like staring into an ocean during a storm, depth and violence barely contained. Her skin prickled. Something inside her, some instinct older than language, whispered, "Danger." Another snarl tore through the night, deeper, angrier, behind the wolf. Emilia flinched, eyes breaking away from the silver gaze to the darkness beyond the shattered beam of her headlights. Another shape moved there, and another. Shadows detached themselves from the tree line. 3, 4, 5 forms, smaller than the gray wolf, but still far too large to be anything else. Their eyes glimmered, yellow and hungry, as they stalked forward. Wolves. A pack. Oh, God. The wolf in front of her car whipped around, teeth bared in a vicious display. His growl was a low, rumbling roar that she felt more than heard, vibrating inside her chest. The others slowed, circling, answering with snarls of their own. The air between them crackled with violence, a palpable tension that made her throat constrict. Emilia's breath came in shallow pants. Her fingers clenched around the phone like a lifeline. She should stay inside. That was what you were supposed to do, right? Stay in the car. But the passenger door on the ditch side was pressed against rock and mud. She wasn't getting out that way. The driver's door, maybe. Lightning flashed. For one electric instant, the world became a frozen tableau. 5 wolves, low and stalking, their lips peeled back over shining teeth. The enormous gray, muscles coiled, ears flattened, light catching the faint scars along his flank. Scars. Old ones. Like he'd fought for a long time. Thunder shook the air, and then they moved. The pack lunged. The gray wolf launched himself at them with terrifying speed. Emilia screamed, sound muffled by the car, but ripping her throat raw. Bodies collided with sickening force. Fur and teeth and claws blurred together in the rain as they slammed into each other, snarling, snapping, rolling in the mud. The night filled with the sounds of tearing and howling and bone-hitting ground. She couldn't look away. The gray wolf fought like a nightmare made flesh. He moved with savage precision, like every step was a decision calculated in the space between heartbeats. He met the first attacker head-on, jaws closing around its throat. The wolf went limp, dropped in a spray of hot, dark blood that the rain immediately began to wash away. Another wolf clamped its teeth into his shoulder. He snarled, a sound so furious that Emilia's bones rattled. With a brutal twist, he threw his attacker off, then turned to meet the next one, teeth flashing white. But for every wolf he drove back, there was another pressing in. He was outnumbered. Emilia's chest hurt, too tight, too full. Logic screamed at her that this was nature, that she was trapped, that she couldn't do anything but wait and pray the storm ended, and the wolves lost interest before they turned on her. Except they had already turned on him. Her mind flashed traitorously to Leo, to his fists, to the suffocating guilt that had wrapped around her when she'd done nothing, said nothing, stayed. Her heart pounded against the bruise on her ribs, blood roaring in her ears. Not again. Another wolf barreled into the gray's side, sending him sliding toward her car. His massive body crashed against the hood with a dull thud. Emilia flinched as metal buckled. For a split second his head snapped up, those pale eyes finding her through the glass. There was something there, not the raw animal hunger of the others. Something like awareness, a sharp, surprised recognition that prickled along her spine. Lightning flashed again, outlining the bloody gouges along his side. Dark streaks ran down his fur, washed thin by the rain. His breaths came in harsh pants, sides heaving. The pack regrouped, forming a loose circle around him. They were going to tear him apart. He'd stepped between her and them. Emilia's fingers moved before her brain caught up. She shoved the door handle. It stuck. She slammed her shoulder into it, hissing at the flare of pain, and shoved again. The door flew open with a protesting shriek, nearly pitching her into the mud. Cold slammed into her. Rain soaked her t-shirt in seconds, the fabric plastering itself to her skin. The air smelled like wet earth, pine, and the sharp copper tang of blood. The wolves froze. Every head turned toward her. Yellow eyes, burning with hunger and confusion. Silver eyes, narrowed in disbelief. Emilia's legs shook as she stepped out, boots sliding slightly in the mud. The world swayed, and she tasted blood where she'd bitten her tongue. She forced her shoulders back, though every instinct screamed at her to scramble back into the car and slam the door. "Hey!" Her voice shook. She swallowed, tried again, louder. "Hey!" 5 wolves staring at her, 1 barely standing, watching with that eerie intensity. Her heart hammered so loudly she was sure they could hear it. She raised her arms, making herself look bigger the way nature shows had always suggested. Her fingers trembled. "Get away from him," she said. The bravado in the words surprised even her. One of the wolves, a lean, dark one with a ragged ear, snarled and took a step toward her. Mud splashed under its paws. Its gaze raked over her, judging, weighing. Emilia had the sudden, sick realization that she was prey. Her throat tightened. "I said—" She swallowed, voice cracking. "Go." She grabbed the only thing she could reach without breaking eye contact. A broken branch lodged in the ditch beside her. It wasn't much, just a length of slick, mossy wood, but she brandished it anyway, taking a staggering step forward. "Leave him alone." The words tore out of her, raw and desperate. She didn't know why she cared, why her chest ached at the sight of the gray wolf bleeding in front of her. He was a wild animal. He was dangerous. But so was Leo. So was every man who had ever told her she was small. The dark wolf's lip curled. It lowered its body, readying to spring. Emilia's knees almost buckled. Then the gray wolf moved. He surged between her and the pack in a blur of muscle and teeth, radiating fury so palpable it felt like heat on her skin. His growl this time wasn't just animal. It was something deeper, layered with a resonance that made the hairs at the back of her neck stand on end. The other wolves recoiled. Emilia's breath caught. The air thickened, charged, like the moment before a lightning strike. The gray wolf stood rigid, hackles raised, every line of his body screaming lethal promise. His head turned just enough that she could see his profile, see the blood at the corner of his mouth. She should have been terrified. Instead, she felt something else curl low in her stomach and spread outward, a thrumming awareness that made her fingers go numb. He was protecting her. They stared at each other, human and beast, while the rain poured and thunder rolled like distant drums. Those silver eyes, flecked with something darker, something almost human, raked over her face, down to the hand clenched around the pathetic branch. A strange sound rumbled deep in his chest, softer than a growl, almost confused. Then, as if some silent message had been exchanged, the pack broke. One by one, the other wolves backed away, snarling under their breath. The dark wolf with the ragged ear lingered a moment longer, eyes flicking between Emilia and the gray wolf. Something sharp and ugly glinted there, resentment, challenge. Finally, with a stiff flick of its tail, it turned and melted into the darkness. The others followed, shadows vanishing between the trees. The clearing fell quiet, except for the rain. Emilia's arm dropped, the branch slipping from her fingers into the mud. Her body shuddered with delayed terror. The adrenaline that had carried her this far began to ebb, leaving her hollow and trembling. The gray wolf swayed on his feet. "Hey," she whispered, all the defiance drained from her voice, leaving only concern. "Hey, no, don't." He staggered. His front legs buckled. She took an instinctive step forward as he collapsed, his huge body hitting the ground with a heavy, wet thud. The rain beat down mercilessly, washing little rivers of pink and red through his fur. Emilia dropped to her knees beside him without thinking, mud soaking into her jeans. Up close, she could see the extent of his wounds, deep gashes along his flank, puncture marks on his shoulder where teeth had sunk in, a jagged tear near his ribs. "Oh God," she breathed, her chest tightening. "You stupid, stupid hero." His eyes cracked open at the sound of her voice. Silver, unfocused. They met hers again, and for a moment the world narrowed to the space between them. Her pulse stumbled. The scent of him hit her then, thick even through the rain, a wild blend of pine, iron, and something dark and smoky that made her head swim. Strange warmth flared beneath her breastbone, sending tingles down her arms. It felt like standing too close to a fire, dangerous and mesmerizing. Emilia's breath hitched. Her hand hovered over his fur, inches away, fingers shaking. "It's okay," she whispered, not sure who she was reassuring. "I'm going to help you, okay? You saved me. So I'm going to save you." The words felt like a promise binding itself around her heart. His nostrils flared faintly, like he could smell the truth of it. Then, as thunder rolled once more through the mountains, the silver in his eyes darkened, like a storm cloud passing over the moon, and everything went black for him. Emilia knelt in the mud beside the unconscious wolf, storm raging overhead, unaware that the life she'd just decided to save belonged not to an animal, but to the most dangerous man on this mountain. Chapter 2. The wolf by the door. Emilia had never been good at lifting weights. But tonight, apparently, she was the kind of person who dragged a full-grown, bleeding wolf through a storm. Okay, she grunted, fingers twisted deep into his soaked fur. You are way too heavy to be this dramatic. The wolf didn't respond. His head lolled, nose trailing through the mud, as she heaved him one agonizing inch at a time. Rain hammered her shoulders, turning the ditch into a slick, sucking mess that clung to her boots. Every muscle in her body shook. The car sat tilted behind them like a wounded beast, hazard lights blinking feebly. She'd grabbed the essentials before abandoning it: her backpack, her aunt's cabin key, the first aid kit from the trunk. Everything else was a problem for a future that included tow trucks and daylight. Right now, her world had shrunk to storm, breath, and the massive, half-conscious creature she refused to leave behind. "You saved me," she panted. "I'm not leaving you here for those other psychos to come back and finish the job." Somewhere in the trees, something howled, distant, answered by another, closer. Emilia's stomach dropped. "Nope," she muttered. "Absolutely not." She hooked her arms beneath his front legs, digging her heels into the muddy slope, and hauled. Her ribs protested, pain flaring white-hot where Leo's hands had left their ghost. She gasped, vision sparking, but didn't stop. Couldn't. "Come on, big guy," she rasped. "Help me out a little." As if he'd heard her, the wolf made a faint, low sound. His paw twitched. For a second, his muscles tensed, taking some of the weight off her. It was just enough to get them over the lip of the ditch. They collapsed together onto the wet gravel of the road. Emilia lay there, chest heaving, staring up at the roiling sky. Rain slapped her face, cold and relentless. Her hair was plastered to her cheeks, her clothes soaked through to the skin. Everything hurt. She rolled onto her side. The wolf's chest rose and fell in slow, heavy breaths. Blood mixed with water in the shallow puddles around him. Up close, the wounds seemed even worse. Deep slashes, torn flesh, the kind of damage that should have killed him already. "You're stubborn," she whispered. "I get that." He didn't move. Emilia pushed up to her knees with a groan. All right. That was round one. Her aunt's cabin, according to the note, was past the old bridge. She'd seen a wooden blur in her headlights, maybe 5 minutes before the crash. If she was right, the cabin couldn't be more than a 15-minute walk, or a very long, miserable trudge through a storm with 100+ pounds of wolf. She eyed the tree line. The earlier howls echoed again, closer now, threading through the pounding rain. Decision made. "We're going," she told him firmly. "You, me, and the terrible life choices parade." She managed to get him partially upright, slinging his front leg over her shoulder like a drunken friend. He towered beside her, even half collapsed, his weight forcing her to hunch. His fur was hot under her hands, heat radiating off him despite the cold. As they staggered down the road, each step a battle, a strange awareness prickled at the edge of her senses. It was like a line between them, invisible but unmistakable, humming softly in her chest. Every time he swayed, she felt him before she saw him, adjusting her grip seconds too soon, as if her body had already anticipated his movement. "You're fine," she muttered, breathless. "You're going to be fine. I did not nearly dislocate my shoulder for you to die on me now." Her voice sounded small in the storm, but she kept talking. The sound anchored her, drowned out the memory of another man's voice, sharp, cutting, telling her she was nothing without him. "So," she said, as if they were having a normal conversation, "I'm Amelia. I was supposed to be starting a nice, quiet, emotionally stable phase of my life tonight. You know, fresh air, therapy podcasts. Not," she glanced sideways at him, hauling supernatural wildlife down a mountain road. His ear twitched. She blinked. "Did you understand that?" "Don't be ridiculous," she scolded herself. "He's just a wolf. A ridiculously large, terrifying, weirdly smart wolf. But still. Yet the feeling persisted. That hum between them. That sense of being tethered. It gnawed at the edges of her rational mind, whispering things she refused to put into words. By the time the old bridge materialized out of the darkness, Amelia's arms were shaking so badly, she almost dropped him. The bridge was worse up close. Old planks slick with moss. The railing broken in places, swollen from years of rain. A narrow creek rushed below, swollen with storm water, its white froth barely visible in the gloom. "Great," she breathed. "This looks perfectly safe." The wolf sagged against her. "Fine," she said. "We're doing this. If we die, I'm haunting you." They shuffled forward, each step sending the boards creaking ominously under their combined weight. Wind pushed at her back, trying to shove them sideways. She tightened her grip on him, half using his mass to steady herself. Halfway across, one of the planks gave a sharp crack. Amelia froze, heart leaping into her throat. The wolf's head shot up, his body going rigid. For a moment, those silver eyes were startlingly clear, locking onto hers. "Don't move," she thought. The words weren't spoken, but they burned in her chest like a plea. He didn't. They stayed like that. Rain, breath, creaking wood, until the moment passed. Then slowly, painfully, they inched the rest of the way. When her boots finally hit solid ground, Amelia almost cried. The cabin revealed itself a few minutes later. A squat, dark shape, nestled between towering pines, its silhouette softened by years of weather. The front porch sagged slightly, but the windows were intact, their glass gleaming faintly when lightning flashed. Relief punched through her so hard her knees nearly buckled. "We made it," she whispered, voice hoarse. "Of course we made it. We're idiots, but we made it." She half dragged, half guided the wolf up the steps and across the porch. The boards groaned under their weight, but held. Balancing him against her, she fumbled the key from her pocket and jammed it into the lock with numb fingers. On the third try, the door gave with a complaining creak. The cabin smelled like dust and pine and something faintly herbal, as if her aunt had been burning sage in here decades ago, and the scent had never really left. The air was cool and dry, a blessed contrast to the storm. Amelia steered them inside and kicked the door shut behind her. Silence settled, heavy and unfamiliar, broken only by the muffled drum of rain on the roof. She eased the wolf down onto the worn rug in front of the cold fireplace. He hit the floor with a low grunt, his body curling instinctively, eyes slitting open once more. They found her again. Hazy, but aware. Amelia sank back on her heels, breathing hard. Up close, he looked even more unreal. His fur wasn't just gray. It was layered with subtle shades of slate and silver, darker along his spine, lighter at his throat and muzzle. Old scars crisscrossed his shoulders and sides, pale lines under the matted fur. Some thin, some jagged, like he'd been fighting since the day he was born. "Who hurt you?" she murmured before she could stop herself. His gaze sharpened for a heartbeat. Emilia looked away first. Right. She scrubbed a shaky hand over her face. Okay. Step 1. Stop you from bleeding out on my aunt's rug and haunting me out of sheer spite. She dug her phone out of her pocket, checked it out of habit. Still no service. A small, helpless laugh escaped her. Of course not. That would be too easy. Her aunt's old emergency lantern sat on a shelf near the door. Emilia flicked it on, filling the room with warm, yellow light. Dust motes floated in the air, turning lazily. The cabin was simple. A couch, a small kitchen, a table with 2 chairs, a narrow hallway leading to what she assumed was the bedroom and bathroom. A stone fireplace dominated the main wall. The place looked like it had been frozen in time, waiting for someone to need it. Guess that's me, she muttered. She grabbed the first aid kit from her backpack and dropped to her knees beside the wolf again. Up close. The smell of blood was stronger, mingling with his strange, wild scent, wrapping around her like a cloak. It should have been repulsive. It wasn't. Her fingers hovered over his side. I'm just going to clean you up a little, okay? Please don't wake up and decide I look tastier than pack wolves. His ear flicked. She took that as consent, because the alternative was paralysis. Emilia tore open antiseptic wipes and did her best. It was messy, clumsy work. Every time she pressed too hard and he flinched, guilt stabbed through her. Her hands were clumsy, untrained. She'd never even had a dog. But she rinsed and wiped and wrapped, using gauze from the kit and strips torn from her old sweater to bind the worst of the wounds. The whole time, she talked. I left my boyfriend, she said conversationally, because silence felt suddenly unbearable. Ex-boyfriend. He's probably realized by now. He'll call. A lot. Then he'll stop calling and start texting. Then the guilt messages. Then the apologies. She wound gauze around his shoulder, fingers brushing his fur, feeling the heat, the rise and fall of his breath. Then the threats, she added softly. Or maybe he'll come up here. He always said I couldn't go anywhere he couldn't find me. Her chest tightened. The bruise on her ribs throbbed, phantom hands digging in. She swallowed, feeling the old shame creep up her throat. The wolf's chest rumbled suddenly, a low, warning sound, unlike the snarls he'd aimed at the other wolves. It vibrated through the floor, up into her knees. Protective, some part of her supplied. The idea was ridiculous. Relax, Batman, she murmured, forcing a shaky smile. He doesn't know where this place is. And I'm not going back. Thunder rolled in the distance, softened by walls and roof. The storm was starting to move on. Finally, after what felt like hours, she finished. She sat back, legs numb, fingers raw, and studied her work. The wolf was a mess of bandages and damp fur, but the bleeding had slowed. His breathing was still rough, but not as shallow as before. His eyes were closed now. Lashes. Lashes. Why did a wolf have lashes that long? Resting against his cheeks. You look like you lost a bar fight, she murmured. He didn't move. Exhaustion slammed into her like a wave. Her hands shook uncontrollably now that the adrenaline had ebbed. She pushed herself unsteadily to her feet and stumbled to the fireplace. There was a small stack of wood beside it, neatly arranged, and a box of matches on the mantel. Thank God for survivalist aunts. Minutes later, flames crackled softly, warmth spreading through the cabin in slow, gentle waves. Shadows danced across the walls, softening the hard edges of her fear. Emilia dragged the old armchair closer to the hearth, then returned to the wolf's side. He hadn't moved, She hesitated, then grabbed the extra blanket from the back of the couch. A faded quilt that smelled faintly of cedar, and draped it over his hindquarters. It barely covered half of him. "Big, unreasonable drama dog," she muttered. As she straightened, her knees nearly gave out. The room swayed. She caught herself on the arm of the chair and sank into it before her body could argue. The cushions sagged in a familiar, welcoming way, as if someone had sat here every night for years. The fire's warmth seeped into her bones. The storm's distant rumble became a lullaby. Her eyes burned. Across from her, the wolf's flank rose and fell. "You're going to be okay," she whispered, lids drooping. "You have to be. I did not survive, Leo, to watch you bleed out on day one of my fresh start." Silver eyes opened, just a fraction. In the flicker of the firelight, Emilia could have sworn they glowed faintly. Not just reflected light, but something deeper. They fixed on her, and the air between them tightened, that invisible thread pulling taut. Her heart skipped a beat. The cabin faded. The fire was a blur. For a second, she had the dizzy, impossible impression of hands. A man's hands, rough and scarred, reaching toward her from somewhere just beyond sight. A voice, low and hoarse, murmuring her name. Her name. Emilia. The sound whispered across her skin like a ghost. Her breath caught. She blinked hard, and it was gone. The wolf's eyes were closed again, his body still, as if he'd never moved at all. Emilia pressed her palm to her heart, where it thundered against her ribs. "I'm losing it," she muttered to herself. "Sleep. I need sleep." She barely felt her body sinking deeper into the chair, barely heard the fire's soft crackle. The last thing she saw before sleep dragged her under was the faint rise and fall of the wolf's chest, steady and sure. Unseen by her, as the storm moved on and moonlight nudged its way through the thinning clouds, the change began. Bones shifted with a muted crack, muscles twisted, reshaping. Fur melted into skin, bandages straining and then snapping. The massive shape on the rug shuddered, shrinking, contorting, becoming something else, someone else. When the silence settled again, a man lay where the wolf had been. Tall, broad-shouldered, dark hair damp against his forehead. His body mapped with the same scars she'd seen under the fur. Her makeshift bandages clung stubbornly to his naked skin. His face was harsh even in sleep, jaw shadowed with stubble, mouth set in a line that spoke of too many battles fought and not enough won. His hand twitched on the rug, fingers curling as if reaching for something or someone. Across the room, Emilia slept on, oblivious. The wolf she'd brought home opened his eyes. Not silver now, but a storm-bleached gray that was very, very human, and watched her with something like awe. Under his breath, voice rough with pain and disbelief, he whispered the words he'd felt snap into place out there on the road, when her scent had hit him like a blade to the chest. My mate. Chapter 3. The Man on the Rug. Emilia woke to warmth. Soft, golden warmth filtering through her closed lids, brushing her cheeks, sinking into her bones. For a long, blissfully heavy moment, she didn't move, drifting between sleep and consciousness, the crackle of a dying fire like a heartbeat in the distance. Then memory crashed into her. The storm, the wolves, the massive gray body bleeding across her aunt's rug. Her eyes flew open. The chair creaked as she lurched forward. The wolf was gone. Not gone. Replaced. A man lay where the wolf had been. Emilia froze, breath trapped like a stone in her throat. For a heartbeat, she couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't even blink. Her pulse roared in her ears, drowning out everything else. The man on the rug was tall, long limbs, broad shoulders, a body built like it had been carved from storm clouds and steel. His skin was flushed with fever, slick with sweat. Dark hair clung damply to his forehead. Stubble shadowed his jaw, framing a mouth drawn tight even in unconsciousness. Her bandages, her makeshift, desperate sweater strips and gauze bandages, were wrapped clumsily around his torso. They looked ridiculous on him, barely containing the carved planes of muscle beneath. But the scars, those she recognized. The same pale, jagged lines she'd seen under fur. The same placement. The same depth. Her stomach dropped clean out of her body. "No," she whispered, shaking her head hard. "No, no, no, that's impossible." Her hands slipped against the armrest as she pushed herself to her feet. She took one stumbling step toward him. He didn't move. The blanket she'd draped over the wolf covered him from the waist down, mercifully preserving some dignity, but it did nothing to protect her nerves. Her heartbeat was chaos, a frantic bird trapped inside her chest. She circled him slowly, inching closer, one cautious step at a time. Each breath felt like swallowing glass. "This is not happening," she breathed. "There was a wolf, not a naked lumberjack wrestler who broke into my cabin. But he hadn't broken in. She dragged him here. Maybe concussed, hallucinating. Maybe she'd hit her head harder than she thought." Her gaze dropped to his face again. Strong cheekbones. A slight crook in his nose as if it had been broken once. Dark lashes fanned against his cheeks, ridiculously long for someone who looked like he could tear a tree in half with his bare hands. His brows were drawn tight in pain. He looked both dangerous and devastatingly human. "Okay," she whispered shakily. "Okay, Emmy. We're going to make a plan. Step 1, confirm he's not dead." Amelia crouched beside him, her bare knees sinking into the rug. Her breath stuttered as she reached out a trembling hand. Her fingers hovered over his shoulder, then lightly pressed 2 fingers to the side of his neck. Warm skin, a pulse, strong, steady, very much alive. Relief rushed through her, and then panic immediately chased it. If he wasn't dead, then he would wake up. A man she did not know. A man she'd found as a wolf. A man currently naked in her aunt's cabin. "Nope," she breathed, scrambling back a foot. "No, thank you. Absolutely not." Her fingers brushed the bandages again. She stared at the strips of torn sweater wrapped around his ribs. The memory of tending the wolf's wounds came back in flashes, her hands smoothing wet fur, her voice whispering to him. Her guilt, her fear, her stubborn determination to keep him alive. Heat crawled up the back of her neck. "You're not supposed to turn into a person," she muttered. His fingers twitched. Amelia froze. She waited, barely breathing, as his hand moved again, brushing weakly against the rug as his brow pinched, his head turning slightly. A low sound escaped him, raw, pained. Not animal, human. She backed up another step and reached automatically for the fireplace poker. "Stay unconscious," she whispered, brandishing the iron rod like it would save her from whatever this was. "Just for like 10 more minutes. Let me get my bearings. And pants." Pants would help. His breathing roughened, chest rising faster. His lips parted in a quiet, strained exhale. Then, with a sudden, sharp gasp, he woke. His eyes, silver, the exact shade they'd been in wolf form, flew open. The room went silent. The world stopped turning. Those eyes locked on her. Emilia's breath collapsed out of her in a single, dizzy burst. Not gray, not blue, silver. Unmistakably, impossibly silver. The poker slipped from her fingers and clattered loudly against the floor. He flinched at the sound. Then he tried to sit up. A pained curse tore from his throat. Low, rough, decidedly human. He collapsed back down, gasping. "Don't move," Emilia blurted, hands lifting instinctively. "You're hurt. Badly hurt. Just stay down, okay?" His gaze flicked around the room, taking in the cabin, the fire, the blanket. Her, like he was cataloging every exit, every detail, every threat. When his eyes returned to her, something shifted there. Recognition. No. Possession. "Emilia," he rasped. Her stomach flipped over violently. "How do you know my name?" He blinked, chest heaving. Sweat slid down his temple. "You said it. Last night." "No, I didn't," she whispered. "You did," he insisted, voice thick and raw. "You called to me." "I definitely did not call to a wolf," she said, backing up another inch. "Or a man. Or any combination thereof." His gaze flicked to the abandoned bandages, to the torn sweater strips, to the bloodstains now dry on his skin. "You saved me," he murmured, sounding almost stunned. "You dragged me out of that ditch. You pulled me across a bridge in the rain. You—" His breath shook. "You protected me." The way he said it, like the idea stunned him, maybe even hurt him, made her chest tighten in a way she did not want to examine. I didn't know you were a man," Emilia said quickly. "Obviously. I thought you were a dog. I mean, a wolf. A big wolf. That's already crazy. This whole thing is insane. You turned into a human in my sleep and, oh God, you're naked." He shifted weakly, as if trying to sit up again. But pain ripped through him and he hissed, collapsing. "Don't," she said sharply, seriously. "Stop trying to move. You're going to tear everything open again." Silver eyes found hers. They softened, dangerously, like storm clouds parting for sunlight, like he'd been holding his breath for hours and could finally exhale now that she was near. It made her skin prickle. "You're not afraid of me," he murmured. "Excuse me?" she squeaked. "You should be." His brows drew together, a pained crease forming between them. "After last night, after what you saw." "You mean the part where you attacked 5 wolves by yourself, or the part where you turned into a very large, unconscious man on my rug? Because I'm processing. A lot." He huffed something that might have been a laugh if he hadn't been bleeding. "You shouldn't have helped me." "Well," she snapped, "excuse me for having basic human decency while you were getting mauled to death." His eyes darkened, something fierce and warm flickering in their depths. "You smelled like fear," he said quietly. Heat shot up her spine. "Okay, that's weird. Stop smelling me." "You smelled like bravery," he corrected, voice dropping lower, rougher. "And blood, and pain, and—" His gaze dipped, lingering on her throat, her pulse, like fate. Emilia felt her breath catch painfully. "Nope," she said, backing up again. "We're not doing that. No creepy scent analysis flirting. No fate stuff." His voice dropped to a whisper. "I couldn't let them touch you." The room tilted. Her heart hammered so loud she was sure he could hear it. He watched her with a focus so intense it felt like heat against her skin, like he was listening to her pulse, matching his breathing to hers. "Why?" she whispered. "Why did you protect me?" His answer was immediate, certain. "Because you're mine." He said it like a vow, like a revelation, like a truth he'd known for centuries. Emilia stumbled back so quickly she hit the edge of the table. No, absolutely not. I don't belong to anyone. Something in his eyes, something dark and possessive, flickered and broke. You're right, he said, after a long, painful breath. You don't. His voice softened. But I belong to you. The floor vanished beneath her feet. For a moment she couldn't think, couldn't breathe, only stare at him, at this impossible, exhausted, devastating man lying broken on her rug, claiming things no stranger had any right to claim. You don't even know me, she whispered. His lashes lowered. His voice was a gravel, soft rumble. I know your scent. A pause. I know your courage. Another pause, softer. And I know the bond. Emilia's throat tightened. Bond. His gaze lifted, piercing and aching. You saved my life, he said simply. And when I shifted, you were the first thing I felt. Her knees nearly buckled. He swallowed hard, eyes drifting closed as exhaustion pulled him under again. My name is Rowan, he murmured, breath slowing. And you're the only reason I'm alive. His hand slipped toward her, fingers brushing the rug as his body went limp. He was unconscious again. Emilia stood rooted to the floor, shaking, heart spiraling between terror and a dizzy, dangerous pull she couldn't name. A wolf had turned into a man who had risked his life for her, a man who claimed fate tied them, a man who knew her name without being told, and she had absolutely no idea what to do next. But one thing was certain. When Rowan woke again, nothing in her life would ever be the same. Chapter 4. Fevered secrets. The rain had stopped hours ago, but the storm inside the cabin hadn't. Rowan burned. Heat came off him in waves, unnatural, searing, like the kind of fever that didn't belong to humans. Emilia paced the small living room, clutching a damp cloth she kept re-wetting in the bathroom sink, her heart ricocheting between panic and something far more dangerous. Concern. Concern for a man who had, until last night, been a wolf trying not to die on her doorstep. Concern for a stranger whose first words to her had been "You're mine." She pressed the cloth to his forehead again. His skin hissed faintly under the cold. Rowan didn't stir this time. His breaths were harsh and uneven, chest rising in strained, shallow pulls. Every so often, a tremor ran through his body, small at first, then violently enough that she grabbed his shoulders to steady him. "Hey," she whispered, voice trembling. "Rowan, you need to wake up. Please." His lashes fluttered but didn't open. Emilia sat back on her heels, staring at him with a knot of dread tightening inside her chest. What if he wasn't going to get better? What if her dragging him here, helping him, had been the wrong thing? What if... A sound broke the silence. Not Rowan. The forest. A deep, distant howl. Emilia's breath stilled. Another howl rose, closer, sharper, echoing through the trees like a warning. Then another, and another. She instinctively reached out and touched Rowan's arm. He flinched. A violent, instinctive jolt. Then his hand shot out blindly, fingers clamping around her wrist with surprising strength for someone half-conscious. His eyes snapped open. Silver. Wild. Radiant. "Emilia!" His voice cracked like something inside him was splitting open. "Get back!" She froze. "What?" He pushed himself upright with a guttural growl of pain, clutching her wrist as if the world were tilting beneath him. Sweat rolled down his temples, muscles straining against the effort. "Back," he rasped out. "Now!" His grip wasn't cruel. It was desperate. Amelia obeyed, retreating until the back of her calves hit the armchair. Rowan sagged forward, bracing himself on one palm, the blanket falling away enough that she averted her eyes with a startled yelp. He let out a humorless, pained breath. "Sorry. It's fine," she said too quickly. "Totally normal. This isn't fine." "It's not," he muttered. The howls came again, nearer than before. Rowan's head snapped toward the window, every muscle locking. His nostrils flared. "They found me," he said softly. Amelia went cold. "The wolves from last night?" "No," Rowan murmured. "Worse. What's worse than a pack trying to murder you?" His gaze slid back to her, haunted and fierce. "Ones that used to call me their alpha." Amelia's pulse stumbled. Her hands curled against the fabric of the chair. "Alpha," she repeated. "Like pack leader? Is that what you are?" Rowan didn't answer right away. His jaw clenched, eyes darkening with something like shame. "Was," he said finally. "I was their alpha. Why are they coming here?" Another howl, long and furious, carried through the trees. "To finish what they started," Rowan said. "Or to finish you." Her blood ran ice cold. "Why me? I didn't do anything." "You did," Rowan said quietly, looking at her like she was a miracle and a curse at once. "You intervened." "In what? A wolf fight?" "In an execution," he corrected. "They wanted me dead. My death was planned." "Ordered." "Ordered," she repeated, breath hitching. "By who?" He swallowed hard, grimacing through a fresh wave of pain. "My brother." The words landed like a blow. "Your brother," she whispered. Rowan nodded once, jaw flexing. "He staged a challenge, a coup. He wants the pack, and my bloodline, erased." Amelia stared at him, mind spinning. "So, he sent them after you." Rowan didn't deny it. "And now they're what? Coming back for round 2? Because you survived?" "No," he said softly, eyes burning with silver fire. "Because I survived with you." Her spine pressed hard against the chair. "What does that mean?" she whispered. Rowan hesitated. The flames in the fireplace popped. Outside, the howling crescendoed, a full chorus now, closing in. Rowan dragged a hand over his face, breathing raggedly. "I don't have the strength for a full explanation, but I can tell you the simplest part." Amelia held her breath. "When you stepped onto that road last night," he said, "when you stood between me and death, everything changed." Her pulse fluttered painfully. "For you?" she asked. "For us?" He met her gaze with quiet intensity. "I felt the bond," he murmured. "The pull. The instinct. The truth that every shifter knows the moment it hits." Her heart pounded. "Rowan! You're my mate." Time splintered. Her breath froze. The whole world narrowed to the man kneeling on her rug, broken and fevered, and looking at her like she was the only thing anchoring him to life. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "You don't get to. You barely know me. I didn't ask for any of. I know," he said gently. His voice, deep, rough, sincere, pulled the breath right out of her lungs. "I didn't ask for it either," he admitted, "but fate doesn't care what we want." She felt the invisible thread between them tighten, subtle but undeniable, a thrumming warmth low in her chest. She tore her gaze away, pacing toward the far wall. "I can't do this. I can't be someone's fate. I barely got out of my last relationship alive. Amelia." His voice softened, wounded. "I'm not him." She froze. "I would die before I hurt you." Her throat ached. She didn't want to believe him, didn't want to need to believe anyone ever again. but the way he said it, aching, sincere, hit a part of her she thought Leo had destroyed. Outside, twigs snapped. Heavy paws hit wet earth. Rowan's head whipped toward the door. They're here. Fear shot through her. But you can't fight like this. I know. The doorknob rattled. Rowan braced himself on shaking arms, forcing his body upright. Sweat streamed down his back. A snarl, human, pained but unmistakably predatory, rumbled in his chest. You need to run, he said. I'm not leaving you, Emilia shot back. Emilia. No. His eyes blazed at her, fear and fury mixing in a way that made her chest clench. You don't understand, Rowan rasped. If they get their claws on you. The front door exploded inward. Wood splintered. Wind roared. And a massive wolf, brown fur bristling, yellow eyes burning, burst into the cabin. Emilia screamed. Rowan lunged. Not in wolf form. Not fully human. Somewhere in between. His body moved with impossible speed, instinct overriding broken bones and torn muscles. He slammed into the wolf mid-leap, sending them both crashing into the wall so hard the room shook. The wolf snarled, snapping its jaws inches from Rowan's face. Rowan roared back. He was strong. He was fierce. He was losing. Another wolf barreled through the door, and another. Emilia stumbled backward as the room filled with snarling bodies, violence and heat crashing through the tiny cabin in a frenzy. Emilia, run! Rowan choked out, teeth bared, blood already trailing down his side. She should run. She should. But something rooted her in place. Something enormous, primal, the same pull she'd felt when she stepped between him and death last night. She snatched the fireplace poker. Hey! She screamed, voice cracking. Get away from him! A wolf spun toward her. Emilia swung. The iron slammed into its muzzle with a sickening crunch. The wolf yelped, stumbling back in shock. For a heartbeat, everything went still. Then Rowan moved, throwing the wolf he was grappling into the hearth so hard embers burst across the rug. His eyes, silver, blazing, locked onto her, and something inside him snapped, not in fury, in revelation. Power surged through him. His body trembled, bones shifting under skin. His growl deepened into something ancient, pulling goosebumps up her arms. Emilia, he rasped, voice breaking into something not entirely human. Stay behind me. Then he stood, fully, despite the blood, despite the pain, despite the impossible odds. 3 wolves circled him. Rowan cracked his neck, bared his teeth, and stepped forward like a man ready to take on the world, with nothing but his bare hands, and a bond he refused to break. Come, he growled, low and lethal. You'll die before you touch my mate. Emilia's heart slammed into her ribs. The wolves lunged. Rowan met them like a storm, and everything shattered into chaos. Chapter 5. Blood on the floorboards. War broke inside the cabin. Rowan collided with the first wolf so hard the floorboards buckled beneath them. Emilia dove behind the table, heart in her throat, fingers clutching the poker like it was a lifeline. The air tasted like iron and smoke and something ancient, like the cabin had become the center of a storm older than the mountains themselves. Rowan was a blur of muscle and fury, not fully shifted, not a man, not a wolf, but something caught violently between. His spine arched, muscles bulging, bones straining under his skin. His nails lengthened into claws. His teeth sharpened as blood spilled from his mouth. But his eyes, those silver, impossible eyes, stayed locked in that human shifter in between. He was fighting to stay conscious, to stay himself, to protect her. A brown wolf lunged for Rowan's throat, No, Emilia screamed, scrambling to her feet. Rowan twisted at the last second, slamming his forearm under the wolf's jaw. Teeth scraped bone with a sickening crunch. He snarled, a sound that reverberated through her chest, through her bones, then drove the wolf backward into the wall. A second wolf darted in from behind. Emilia moved before she thought, slamming the poker into its flank. The wolf shrieked and spun on her, lips peeling back, froth dripping from its jaws. Her limbs froze. The wolf lunged. Rowan hit it midair like a falling tree, knocking it sideways. They crashed across the floor in a tangle of fur and claws and scraping wood. "Emilia!" Rowan's voice broke through the chaos. "Get out, go." "I'm not." Her breath seized as a third wolf's shadow darkened the doorway. Big, broad-shouldered, yellow eyes glowing with malicious intelligence. The one with the ragged ear. The one who had hesitated last night. The one who felt wrong. The leader. Its gaze cut to Rowan, bleeding, half-shifted, struggling. Then its eyes slid to Emilia. A low growl vibrated through the floor. "No," Rowan's voice rasped in her memory. "If they get their claws on you." The wolf lunged straight for her. Rowan roared, a sound that shattered the air. Time blurred. 1 second. The wolf was airborne. The next, Rowan was between them. He took the full force of the attack, fangs sinking deep into his shoulder. His body snapped back, slamming into the floor with thunderous force. Blood sprayed across the wood, hot and dark. Rowan. Emilia's scream tore her throat raw. His hand, clawed, trembling, shot out and grabbed the wolf by the scruff, wrenching it off him. He threw the wolf so hard it crashed into the cabin table, shattering it into splinters. Emilia stumbled back as the table collapsed inches from her feet. Rowan was on his knees now, chest heaving, blood dripping down his arm. His wounds, barely closed from her bandaging, had torn open again, leaking crimson across the floor. "Stay behind me," he panted, struggling upright. No, you can't. "Rowan, you're bleeding." He swayed, his mouth twisted in something like a smile. "I've had worse." The wolves regrouped. 3 of them still stood. Their snarls vibrated through the cabin. Smoke drifted from the hearth, curling around broken furniture and strewn embers. Rowan planted his feet, swaying but unbroken. Emilia saw it then, saw what he truly was beneath the wounds and exhaustion. Not a monster, not a beast, a protector. Something primal stirred deep inside her, an instinct she didn't recognize. Something fierce and raw that urged her forward. Not away, to him. The wolves attacked again. Rowan moved faster than he should have been able. He grabbed the first wolf by the throat, slamming it down, claws carving deep into fur. The second latched onto his side. He ripped it off with a guttural snarl. The third, the leader, circled, clever and calculating, waiting for its moment. Emilia's pulse pounded. She gripped the poker tighter. "Rowan," she shouted, "behind you!" He spun just as the leader lunged, but too slow. Its jaws closed on Rowan's wounded arm. Rowan roared. Emilia didn't think. She didn't plan. She launched herself at the wolf leader with the poker in both hands, swinging with every ounce of strength she had. The iron struck the back of its skull with a sickening hollow crack. The wolf collapsed. For a breathless moment, silence fell. Rowan stared at her. Shock, fear, and something like pride flickering across his fevered features. "Emilia." She dropped the poker, chest heaving. "Don't you dare say run again." Something broke in his expression. Something soft. something dangerous. But the moment shattered as the remaining 2 wolves recovered, their growls rising in a deadly crescendo. Rowan bared his teeth, pulling himself upright again despite the blood soaking the floor. He couldn't take 2 more. Not like this. Not half-shifted. Not bleeding out. Emilia grabbed the lantern from the shelf. The wolves advanced. She hurled the lantern into the fireplace. Glass shattered. Flames burst upward in a plume. The wolves froze, eyes reflecting orange fire. Rowan's head whipped toward her. "Emilia, what are you—" She snatched a burning piece of firewood from the edge of the hearth and swung it at the nearest wolf, sparks flying. "Get out!" she screamed. The wolves snarled and backed up. Another step. Another. Then, with a final growl of frustration and threat, they fled into the forest, dragging the unconscious leader behind them. For several seconds, the cabin was nothing but ragged breathing and crackling embers. Emilia dropped the burning log, chest heaving. Her knees gave out, and Rowan caught her before she fell. His arms wrapped around her, hot with fever, trembling from pain. She pressed her forehead against his chest, gripping his shoulders even as blood slicked her palms. "You could have died," she whispered, voice breaking. "You almost died." His breath hitched. "Emilia." "I'm not losing anyone else," she choked out. "Not ever again." His hand slid up her back, gentle, reverent, almost disbelieving. "You won't," he murmured, voice rough. "Not while I breathe." For a moment they stayed like that, 2 broken, trembling souls holding each other in the wreckage of a room that had nearly become their grave. Then Rowan swayed. His knees buckled. "Rowan!" She grabbed him, guiding him down as his strength failed. He collapsed to the floor, breath sharp and ragged. Emilia cupped his face in both hands. "Stay with me." His eyes fluttered open, silver dimming with exhaustion. "You're safe," he breathed. "Good." "No?" Tears burned her eyes. "You're the one who's not safe." His fingers brushed her cheek in a soft, fevered caress. "Doesn't matter," he whispered. "You're my mate. I protect you. Always." Her heart squeezed painfully. "I didn't ask you to." "I know." His voice softened further. "But fate doesn't ask." His eyes closed. "Rowan. Rowan." He didn't respond. His chest rose, shallow and strained. He was alive. Barely. Emilia pressed her forehead to his, swallowing a sob. "You're not dying," she whispered fiercely. "Not after I dragged your giant, stubborn wolf body across a whole mountain." Outside, the forest howled. Inside, Rowan's heartbeat fluttered weakly under her palm, and Emilia realized, with terrifying clarity, that her life was no longer hers alone. She was tied to him now, by danger, by fate, by something she didn't understand and wasn't sure she wanted to, but she wasn't letting go. Not now, not ever. She took his hand, gripping it tightly as the fire sputtered low. "Okay," she whispered. "Round 2. I'm going to save your life again." She didn't see the shadow moving in the trees outside, watching the cabin with eyes identical to Rowan's, but colder. His brother had found them, and he was coming. Chapter 6. The brother in the trees night returned like a held breath released too slowly. The storm was gone, the forest washed clean and dripping, but the cabin's interior remained thick with smoke, blood, and the echo of snarls that refused to fade from Emilia's ears. Rowan lay unconscious on the floor, his breath shallow, fever burning through him like wildfire. He needed help, real help. Emilia pressed another wet cloth to his forehead, biting her trembling lip as heat rolled off his skin. "You're burning up," she whispered. "Please, wake up. At least yell at me again for not running. Something." No response. His body, once impossibly strong, looked too human now, too fragile. His dark hair clung to his temples. His wounds wept fresh blood through what remained of her improvised bandages. She needed supplies, medicine, water. The cabin's tiny bathroom had a few old bottles of aspirin, peroxide, and an ancient first aid kit. But that wouldn't be enough. Not with wounds caused by wolves twice the size of normal ones. Wolves that might not be wolves at all. She stood shakily, wiping soot from her face. "I'm going to find something," she told him. "Don't die while I'm gone." She tried to sound stern. It came out broken. Emilia went to the door, its hinges bent, wood splintered, and shoved it partially closed. It couldn't lock, but it was better than leaving it wide open to the forest. She grabbed her backpack, her phone, still useless, and one of the unbroken lanterns. The night air bit at her skin as she stepped onto the porch. A thin mist curled low to the ground, weaving between the trees like something alive. The moon had risen, pale and watchful, spilling silver light across the forest floor. Her breath fogged. She took one step. Branches rustled. Her body seized. "Rowan?" she whispered. Silence. No wolf voices, no snarls, but a pressure draped over the clearing, thick and sharp, like the air just before lightning strikes. Something was out there, watching. Her pulse climbed into her throat. She scanned the tree line, lantern trembling in her grip. "Hello," she called, voice trembling. If you're another wolf, I swear to God I am not afraid to hit someone with a poker again." She absolutely was afraid, but fear was better than helplessness. Nothing answered. Then, behind her, a soft, deliberate snap of a twig. Emilia whirled around. Her heart stopped. A man stood in the shadows near the cabin. Tall, broad-shouldered, barefoot, no shirt, no shoes, just dark pants soaking with dew. Moonlight revealed a face carved in harsh lines, cheekbones sharp as blades, jaw tense, mouth curled in something between amusement and disdain, and his eyes, silver, like Rowan's, but colder, much colder. "Hello," the man said softly. His voice held a dangerous calm, the kind predators used when they weren't hungry. Yet, "You must be Emilia." Emilia stepped back, lantern raised. "Who are you?" He smiled faintly, though it never reached his eyes. "Would you believe a friend?" "No," she said immediately. His smile widened. "Smart girl." He took another step forward. Emilia held her ground. "Stop." He did, not out of obedience, out of interest. "I'll admit," he drawled, "I wasn't expecting you to be quite so defiant. Rowan always did like that type." Her lungs froze. "Rowan," she whispered, "you know him." "Of course I know him." Another step. Slow, controlled. Emilia tightened her grip on the lantern. He inhaled deeply through his nose, like a wolf scenting prey, and nodded to himself. "You smell like him," he said. "He's marked you." Her whole body tensed. He didn't do anything to me." "Oh, love," the stranger murmured. "That's not what I meant." He stepped into a beam of moonlight, and she saw it. The resemblance, same sharp jaw, same dark hair, same piercing silver eyes. Only Rowan's eyes had held softness, protectiveness. This man's eyes were weapons. "You're his brother," Emilia whispered. He smiled slowly. "Cain," he confirmed with a slight bow. "At your service." Her stomach twisted. "Rowan said you tried to kill him." "I did," Cain said simply, "and I will finish the job soon." Her blood turned to ice. "But first, His gaze slid past her, toward the half-shattered cabin door. I want to see what sort of human woman makes an alpha lose his mind. Amelia blocked his view instinctively, shifting to stand between him and the cabin. Kane's brows lifted. Ah, protective. He clicked his tongue. How quaint. Stay away from him, she snapped. He laughed, a single cold bark. You have no idea what he is, do you? I know he's not a monster. Kane's smile vanished. His voice dropped to a chilling whisper. He is the monster. Her heartbeat hammered in her ears. Rowan isn't dangerous, she insisted, though her voice shook. Isn't he? Kane tilted his head. Has he told you what happens when a shifter claims a mate? Truly claims them? I'm not his... That bond you feel? Kane cut in smoothly. That pull in your chest he stirs just by breathing. That is not love. It is instinct, possession. The moment Rowan tasted your scent, you became his obsession. Amelia's stomach twisted. He kept going, soft, cutting, deadly. And if you run, he'll hunt you. No, she whispered. He wouldn't. If anyone touches you. Kane stepped closer, voice ablade. He'll tear them apart. He already did, she whispered before she could stop herself. Of course he did. You are the one thing he can't lose now. Kane paused, silver eyes gleaming. The one thing I can use. Something inside Amelia cracked like ice underfoot. You're not taking him, she whispered. You think you can stop me? Kane asked, amused. A wounded man, and a human girl. She took a step back toward the cabin. If you come inside, she said, voice trembling but strong, I will fight you. Kane's smile sharpened. Oh, I hope you do. He moved. Fast. Too fast. Amelia stumbled back, lantern swinging wildly. Kane reached for her, and a snarl shook the night. Rowan, bloody, half-conscious, barely standing, filled the cabin doorway. One hand braced on the frame, chest heaving, eyes blazing with silver fire. His voice was a low, murderous growl. Touch her, Rowan said, and I'll rip out your throat. Kane turned, smile slow and venomous. There he is, he murmured. My brother, the broken alpha. Rowan staggered forward, shielding Amelia with his body. She pressed a hand to his back, warm, feverish, trembling. Rowan, she whispered, you shouldn't be standing. He shook his head once, never taking his eyes off Kane. You won't touch her, Rowan rasped. Kane raised a brow. Says the dying man. Rowan bared his teeth. Says her mate. Kane's eyes flashed. Then I suppose, the younger brother purred, I should kill her first. The forest held its breath. Rowan lunged. Kane vanished into the trees. Amelia grabbed Rowan before his knees gave way. Rowan, stop. You can't chase him. Your wounds. He collapsed against her, panting, burning with fever and fury. He's coming back, Rowan gasped, voice breaking. He won't stop. She held him tightly as he sagged into her arms. Then, we'll be ready, she whispered fiercely. I'm not going anywhere. Rowan's breath shuddered against her neck. His hand found hers. Weak, trembling, but deliberate. You should. His voice cracked. Being near me is a death sentence. Amelia cupped his jaw, forcing him to look at her. No, she whispered. Being without you is. Something in Rowan's eyes shattered. Fear, relief, bond, fate. His forehead fell against hers. I can't lose you, he breathed. You won't. But outside, in the shadows between the trees, Kane's cold laughter echoed, and Amelia knew this was only the beginning. Chapter 7. The line between love and ruin. Rowan didn't fall asleep. He collapsed. One moment he was staring into the trees where Kane had vanished, breaths ragged and uneven. muscles trembling from the barely controlled urge to tear through the forest after his brother. The next, his knees buckled, and Amelia barely caught him before he hit the floor. "Easy, easy. I've got you," she whispered, guiding him inside and back toward the ruined rug. Her hands slipped on the blood smeared across his skin, her pulse tripping over itself in fear. He was so hot, fever hot. Heat radiated off him like a furnace. Every breath pained. This wasn't normal. This wasn't human. She eased him down, lowering his weight onto the floor. Rowan sucked in a sharp breath as his injured shoulder touched the boards. Emilia grabbed a pillow from the couch and slid it under his head, brushing sweaty hair from his forehead with trembling fingers. "You should have stayed lying down," she whispered. "You shouldn't." Rowan's eyes opened, silver and fractured. "You were alone," he murmured hoarsely. "With him." A shiver raced down her spine, not from fear, but the quiet, possessive anguish in his voice. Raw, uncontrolled, terrifying only because it wasn't directed at her, but wrapped around her like a vow. She swallowed, leaning close so he could see her clearly. "I'm okay. I'm right here." Rowan shuddered, eyes slipping shut for a moment, as if her voice had physically eased him. Then he forced them open again, barely. "No," he rasped. "You're not safe. He'll come back." Emilia stiffened. "Let him." Rowan's eyes snapped open, sharp and pained. "Emilia, no." His voice cracked. "You don't understand. Cain will use you, hurt you, break you, to get to me." She felt his hand fumble blindly against the floor. She caught it, squeezing tightly. His palm was scorching hot. "You said the bond is instinct," she whispered, "that it makes you protective. What does it do to him?" Rowan swallowed, throat moving. "He doesn't feel it like I do," he whispered. "He's not bonded. He's not anything. Just blood, and hate, and ambition." His hand tightened around hers. "He can't feel what I feel for you." "What do you feel for me?" she asked softly. Too softly. Rowan froze. His breathing went unsteady. And Emilia realized what she'd asked, what she'd admitted. She tore her gaze away, cheeks burning. But Rowan answered, not with silence, not with hesitation, with truth. "A pull," he murmured, voice barely audible. "A hunger in my bones, a certainty deeper than anything I've ever known." His fingers trembled against hers. "I feel you everywhere, Emilia, like my body can't decide where it ends and you begin." Her heart jolted violently. The room suddenly felt too small, too warm, too alive. She swallowed hard. "Rowan, it terrifies me." His voice broke. "But I don't want it to stop." Her breath hitched, and somewhere in her chest, somewhere dark and wounded and abandoned, something leaned toward him, drawn by the gravity in his words. She forced herself to breathe, forced her voice to stay steady, despite the way her pulse rattled. "We can talk about whatever this is later. Right now, we have bigger problems." Rowan's expression hardened. "Yes," he whispered. "My brother." "And your fever," Emilia muttered, brushing her thumb along his temple, "which is about 10 degrees past medically concerning." He closed his eyes, leaning into her touch with a quiet, pained exhale. It shook her. She didn't know what possessed her to keep touching him, but she didn't stop. Maybe because he looked like no one had touched him gently in years. Maybe because her body wouldn't obey reason anymore. Maybe because fate was a cruel, magnetic thing, pulling them together no matter how many times she tried to step back. "Why are you burning up?" she asked quietly. "Is this because you're a shifter?" Rowan swallowed. Yes, and no, which was not helpful. She pressed her cool palm against his cheek again. His breath hitched dangerously. What does that mean? She whispered. His lashes fluttered. Fighting. While half shifted, it traps heat inside. The body tries to finish the shift or revert completely, but the wounds stop it. Rowan grimaced. I'm stuck between forms. Emilia's heart lurched. So you're dying? Rowan asked softly. Her hand froze. He didn't make her wait. He shook his head weakly. Not yet. Not yet. Not reassuring at all. Another tremor ran through him, harder this time, arching his back off the floor. Emilia grabbed his shoulders to steady him as he shook, his breath strangled, his voice choking on a snarl that sounded less human this time. Rowan. Rowan, she cried. His eyes flew open, and for a terrifying moment, they weren't silver, they were feral. His hand shot up, claws half-formed, gripping her arm, but his grip wasn't violent. It was terrified. Don't run, he gasped through gritted teeth. I won't hurt you. I won't. His voice twisted, deepened. The shift was trying to take him. Fighting it was ripping him apart. Emilia cupped the side of his face with both hands. Hey, look at me. Rowan, look at me. He fought it. She saw it in the contortion of his jaw, the strain in his muscles, the agony burning through every inch of him. You're safe, she whispered, forehead lowering to his. You hear me? You're safe. He exhaled a broken sound, half growl, half sob. No, he rasped. You're not. She pulled back enough to search his eyes. But you're not hurting me. You don't smell afraid, he whispered. The words sent a tremor through her. Not fear, but something warmer. Stranger. Because I'm not, she said softly. Not of you. His fingers curled weakly in her sleeve. Emilia. The way he said her name. Rough, fevered, reverent. Almost undid her. But another sound snapped the moment in half. A howl. Not far away. Then another. Closer. Emilia stiffened. Rowan's head turned sharply toward the window, jaw tightening. They're circling, he whispered. Waiting. Watching. For what? For him. Cain. Rowan nodded. Why didn't he attack when he had the chance? She whispered. Because he wants me conscious, Rowan said. Wants me forced into a full shift, so he can challenge me properly. Challenge you? Rowan's eyes met hers. Haunted. In our world, an alpha doesn't die by ambush, he said. He dies in front of the pack. Emilia's skin crawled. But you're not alpha anymore, she said. That's what Cain wants, Rowan whispered. Officially. Emilia's voice dropped to a whisper. And unofficially? Rowan swallowed hard. He wants my mate. Every hair on her body stood on end. He's not getting you, Rowan breathed. Not while I live. Rowan, she murmured, voice trembling. You can barely breathe. I don't care. Her throat tightened painfully. Emotion clawed behind her ribs. Fear. Fury. Something deeper she didn't dare name. And then she realized something. Cain hadn't attacked because Rowan was too weak to shift. Because Rowan was too weak to fight. The pack wasn't waiting for dawn. They were waiting for Rowan to collapse completely. We have to move, Emilia whispered. Now. Rowan shook his head. I can't. Then I'll get you out. His eyes snapped open, burning with alarm. No. Emilia. No. They'll smell you. They'll track you. You step one foot into that forest alone and they'll rip. He choked mid-sentence, body seizing with another violent tremor. Emilia grabbed him, holding him as tightly as she dared. Rowan, stay with me. It passed slowly. Too slowly. He sagged back, utterly drained. Emilia, he whispered, If I shift again before I heal, I won't come back. She froze. Come back? She whispered. He swallowed, throat working. My wolf will take control, he murmured. I'll become feral. Gone. Lost. Forever. Her breath strangled. Rowan met her gaze, silver eyes trembling. If that happens, you run. I won't run, she said fiercely. You have to. No. His jaw clenched in agonized desperation. Amelia, please. She leaned forward, pressing her forehead to his. You saved my life, she whispered, twice. You protected me when you were half dead. You tore your body apart to keep me safe. Her voice broke on the next words. I'm not leaving you. Something shattered in Rowan's chest. His hand lifted, weak, trembling, and cupped her cheek. Then let me stand, he whispered. She swallowed hard. Help me, he said. And despite every warning, every fear, every part of her screaming that this was impossible, she nodded. Her hands slid under his arms as she braced herself. Okay, she breathed. On 3. He took a shuddering breath. Their eyes locked. 1, 2, 3. Rowan gritted his teeth and rose. Blood dripped. Muscles trembled. His body swayed dangerously. But he stood. Barely. But he stood. Amelia slid under his arm, steadying him. His forehead rested against hers again as he caught his breath. Silver eyes burning with pain and something deeper. Amelia, he whispered. She lifted her chin slightly. Yeah. His voice was barely a breath. Don't look away from me. She didn't. Not even when a shadow stepped silently into the doorway. Cain, smiling, eyes glowing, and behind him, 2 wolves. Rowan's grip tightened on her. Time's up, Cain murmured. Chapter 8. The Forced Shift. The cabin seemed to shrink around them. The fire sputtered low in the hearth, flickering shadows across the splintered floorboards, the broken furniture, and the blood-soaked rug. Amelia clung to Rowan's arm as he struggled to stay upright, every breath shaking, every muscle screaming in protest. Cain stepped into the doorway, a predator's smirk curling his lips. The 2 wolves that followed, lean, cruel, yellow-eyed, stamped in unison, their claws clicking on the wood. The air vibrated with their low growls, primal and calculated. You've done well to survive this long, little mate, Cain said, voice smooth, taunting. But it ends tonight. Rowan's silver eyes glimmered dangerously, despite the fever, the exhaustion, the deep half-shift that had left him fragile. His chest heaved as he squared himself in front of Amelia. You'll have to go through me, he rasped. Cain laughed softly, a sound that cut through the tension like steel. Oh, Rowan, you're barely standing. Half-shifted, bleeding, fevered. This isn't going to be a fight anymore. Rowan's lips tightened, claws flexing. I won't let her... Cain's gaze flicked to Amelia. You can't even begin to understand what this is, human. That bond, that pull your scent ignited in him. It's not love. It's instinct. Possession. And tonight, I'll force it to break. The air shifted suddenly, heavy with tension, magic, and raw animal power. Amelia felt her knees go weak. Her pulse raced so fast it felt like her chest might explode. She pressed herself against Rowan, clutching his arm like a lifeline. What are you going to do? She whispered, voice trembling. Cain stepped closer, his eyes glinting silver in the firelight. I'm going to force him to shift fully, make him lose control, make him either kill or run, without the bond to hold him back. Rowan groaned, gripping her hands tighter. No. His voice was almost inaudible, swallowed by a low rumble that shook the cabin. I won't. Let him. touch you." "Rowan," Emilia whispered, desperate. "You have to fight." He shook his head weakly, pain etching every line of his face. "I can't. Not like this." Kane smiled, slow and cruel, and raised his hand. The air snapped. The temperature dropped sharply. The wolves' snarls deepened. Magic, or something older, darker, buzzed against her skin. Rowan stiffened. His body began to convulse violently, muscles elongating and tightening as fur sprouted along his arms and neck, teeth sharpening into razor points. His roar tore through the cabin, half human, half beast, ragged with pain. "Emilia, get back," he shouted through the shift, but she refused. She reached for him, gripping his shoulder with both hands. "I'm not leaving you," she cried. Silver eyes, fierce, desperate, burning, found hers through the fur, the monstrous snarl, the raw heat of the forced transformation. For the briefest instant, she saw Rowan, not a wolf, not a man, but both. And in that instant, he looked terrified, terrified of losing himself, terrified of losing her. The wolves lunged at him. Rowan snapped, swiping them aside with terrifying speed, claws raking wood and flesh alike. Emilia stumbled backward, her palms pressed against the wall for support, watching as he fought desperately, not just for his life, but for hers. Kane advanced slowly, intentionally, forcing Rowan further into the cabin. "You see," Kane said softly, "you cannot protect her. Your mate will be mine, or destroyed." Rowan's silver eyes, even in wolf form, found Emilia. His voice, low, guttural, raw, cut through the chaos. "Run," he rasped. "Go, live." "No," Emilia screamed. "I'm not leaving you." Rowan's ears flattened, body tensing. His massive form shook violently as another wave of forced magic hit him. He howled, a sound that pierced her chest, jagged and aching. The bond flared then, impossible, consuming. She could feel it, the pull, the tug, the raw hunger that coursed between them. It was terrifying, consuming, breathtaking. Her pulse locked to his, every heartbeat a drum of warning and desire, panic and connection. Rowan's body convulsed, fur bristling, claws scraping against the floorboards, teeth bared in a snarl that was almost human. The fever and magic and pain twisted him, made him feral. She pressed closer, hands gripping his massive shoulders. "Look at me, Rowan. You're not alone. You're my mate. You're not losing me." His silver eyes pierced hers, the human intelligence still flickering beneath the beastly exterior. A tremor passed through his body. The convulsions slowed. The fur receded slightly as his control fought back against Kane's dark influence. "Stay with me," she whispered fiercely, almost more command than plea. Rowan's massive chest heaved. His growl softened, warred with the low, desperate roar of the forced shift. Slowly, agonizingly, he began to pull back from the edge of the wolf inside him. Kane's smile faltered. "You... how?" "She's mine," Rowan growled, voice still hoarse, eyes blazing. "And no one touches my mate." With a final guttural roar, Rowan surged forward, wolf strength, human intelligence, raw determination combined. The wolves flinched. Kane stumbled backward. And then Rowan, still fevered, still injured but burning with lethal energy, shifted fully back into his human form, standing in the middle of the cabin, chest heaving, blood dripping, hair damp, eyes silver, alive. Hers. Emilia stumbled forward and wrapped herself around him instinctively, pressing her face into his chest, feeling his heartbeat hammer beneath her ear. "You did it," she whispered shakily. You fought it." Rowan's hand, clawed, raw, trembling, found her waist and held her tightly. "I couldn't lose you," he rasped. "Not to him. Not ever." Outside, Kane hissed, retreating to the shadows, the pack pulling him back. But inside, the storm between them, fate, bond, fire, blood, had shifted irreversibly. Amelia pressed her forehead to his, trembling. "Rowan, you're mine." Rowan's breath caught. "Forever," he murmured, and for the first time since the wolves had attacked, the storm, the pain, and the darkness felt almost bearable, almost safe, almost theirs. But the howl from the forest reminded her that Kane wasn't done. Not by a long shot. This was only the beginning. Chapter 9. Love Revealed. The cabin was quiet for the first time since Amelia had found Rowan. The fire flickered low, painting the walls with golden light that danced over broken furniture, blood-streaked floorboards, and the two of them pressed close together in the middle of the room. Rowan sat against the rug, one hand pressed to his bandaged shoulder, the other holding Amelia's trembling hands between his. His chest rose and fell in ragged breaths. Her pulse had slowed just enough that she could feel the tiny shivers running through him as clearly as her own. "Rowan," she whispered, brushing damp hair from his forehead. "Are you okay?" He gave a humorless laugh, one that rumbled in his chest and made her shiver. "I'll live," he admitted. "But barely. You've saved me more than once in the last 24 hours. "I couldn't leave you," she said softly. Her thumb traced the shallow scars across his wrist, remnants of his recent battle and his long life of fights. "I couldn't. Not after everything." He caught her hand and held it against his chest, over his racing heart. Silver eyes locked onto hers, unflinching. The pull between them, the bond, raw and undeniable, was overwhelming. She felt it vibrating through her chest, tying them together with threads she didn't fully understand, but didn't want to resist. "You don't have to say anything," Rowan murmured, voice low and rough. "Just stay with me. Don't think, don't question. Just be here." Her heart thumped hard. Every instinct screamed at her that she should step back, that it was too much, too fast, too dangerous. But she couldn't. Not when every fiber of her body and mind was drawn to him, tethered by something ancient and fated. "I don't want to leave," she whispered, voice catching. Rowan's lips curved slightly. "Then stay." His hand tightened around hers. "Because I can't live without you either, Amelia. Not now. Not ever." Her chest constricted, a mix of fear and longing so intense it made her dizzy. The world beyond the cabin, the storm, the wolves. Kane's looming threat faded to insignificance. All that existed was him, silver eyes glinting, chest rising and falling with effort, hand warm and trembling against hers. Her voice broke. She leaned closer, pressing her forehead against his. I think I've already fallen for you." The words hung between them like a fragile flame. Rowan's gaze softened, eyes flooding with something deeper than silver, something human, something dangerous, something painfully vulnerable. He cupped her face with one hand, thumb brushing over her cheek. "I've already fallen for you too," he admitted, voice rough and raw. "Before I even knew you. Before I knew anything about this world, this bond, this life. He broke off, swallowing hard. "I don't care. I can't care. Because I feel it, Amelia. And I won't fight it anymore." Her breath caught. The bond thrummed between them, impossibly intense, and she felt the pull, as if it were a living thing, wrapping around her heart, her chest, her very soul. Rowan lowered his forehead to hers again, eyes never leaving hers. "You're mine, Amelia, in every way that matters, and I'm yours, always." Tears pricked at her eyes. The raw honesty, the fierceness in his gaze, the undeniable truth of their bond overwhelmed her. She cupped his face with both hands, trembling, and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was soft at first, hesitant, fragile, but it burned with the heat of every stolen glance, every near death, every moment they had survived together. It was everything and nothing, terrifying and comforting all at once. Rowan's arms tightened around her, pulling her close, anchoring her to him. She felt the tremor of his body against hers, the rhythm of his pulse matching hers, the heat of his fevered skin mingling with her own warmth. "Amelia," he whispered against her lips, "I swear, nothing will take you from me. Not Kane, not the pack, not anything." Her hands pressed into his shoulders, gripping him as tightly as he held her. "I'm not going anywhere," she whispered. "I'm not leaving you." They stayed like that, forehead to forehead, breaths mingling, hearts tethered by the invisible, magnetic thread of fate, for what felt like hours, until the fire's warmth seeped into their bones, and the chaos outside the cabin became a distant memory. For the first time since the storm, the wolves, the blood, and the terror of Kane's threat, Amelia felt safe, not just physically, but in a way she had never known she could feel, with Rowan beside her, alive, injured but alive, bound to her in ways she could feel in every nerve and sinew of her body. She understood something undeniable. They were mates, fated, pulled together by something older and stronger than fear, older and stronger than pain, older and stronger than life itself. And no force in the world, no pack, no curse, no brother, would ever be able to tear that bond apart. Rowan's hand slid down her back, brushing against the small of her waist, steadying her, grounding them both. "I love you," he murmured again, soft, raw, undeniable. "I love you too," she breathed, her forehead still resting against his. And for the first time in a long, violent, chaotic night, the world outside, the forest, Kane, the pack, faded completely, because here, in the flickering firelight, with blood on the floorboards and the remnants of battle around them, they had found something stronger than fear, stronger than pain, stronger than life itself. They had found each other, and that bond, the pull, the fate, the fire of their connection, was unbreakable, until Kane returned, and he would. Amelia pressed herself closer, letting Rowan hold her, heart hammering with a dangerous, thrilling certainty. They were together, and nothing else mattered. Chapter 10. The final challenge. The forest waited. Amelia could feel it in her bones, in the way the air vibrated with tension and danger. The moon hung low, silver and sharp, spilling cold light across the wet earth. Every tree seemed alive, every shadow a potential threat. Rowan stood in the center of the cabin clearing, his back to Amelia, chest heaving, muscles coiled and trembling from exhaustion and fever. His silver eyes scanned the darkness, every instinct screaming at him. "They're coming," he whispered, voice low, dangerous. Amelia's fingers intertwined with his, gripping tightly. "We can face them together," she said. Her voice was steadier than she felt, though her pulse hammered. "We're strong together." Rowan's eyes found hers. Heat radiated from his fevered body, warmth and wild power that made her stomach twist. "You shouldn't be here," he growled softly. "You shouldn't risk—" "I'm not leaving you," she interrupted, pressing her forehead against his. Not now. Not ever. He exhaled sharply, jaw flexing. The silver in his eyes flared, pulsing like fire in the darkness. Then stay close, he said, and hold on. A low growl rippled through the trees. 1, 2. Then the entire forest seemed to hum with movement. Cain stepped from the shadows. Flanked by 3 massive wolves, yellow eyes gleaming in the moonlight. His bare chest glistened with moisture from the earlier rain, muscles taut, expression cruelly calm. I wondered how long it would take for you to recover, he said softly. You've grown attached to your mate, brother. Dangerous, isn't it? Rowan's lips twisted in a snarl. You'll never have her, he growled. Cain laughed, a sound that cut like a knife through the night. We'll see. The mate bond is strong, yes, but it can be tested. Broken. Rowan stepped forward, silver eyes blazing with a mix of fever, fury, and determination. You won't touch her. Cain tilted his head, eyes flicking to Amelia. Ah, but she's human. Fragile. Weak. Easy to manipulate. Just like you were once. Amelia pressed closer to Rowan, heart hammering. You're wrong, she whispered fiercely. I'm not weak. Not with him. The wind shifted. Wolves lunged from the shadows, snarling, teeth bared. Rowan's body tensed, muscles flexed, claws unsheathing instinctively. He roared, a sound half human, half beast, a war cry that shook the clearing. The pack halted. One by one, they faltered, sensing his power, the depth of his bond with Amelia. You think this bond will protect her? Cain's voice hissed like a snake. Strength, brother, comes from dominance, not love. Tonight, I'll strip it away. Rowan's silver eyes flashed with fury. Try me. The first wolf lunged at Amelia. Rowan, she screamed, but before he could react fully, Rowan moved, a blur of heat and movement, protecting her even half-shifted, claws raking through the air, fangs snapping. Cain cursed and stepped forward, summoning a dark pulse of power. The air trembled, leaves shaking violently. Rowan staggered, but he gritted his teeth, resisting the magical force pushing against him. Amelia felt it too, the pull of Cain's dark power, attempting to sever the bond. Her stomach twisted with fear. Rowan, she yelled. I'm here. Focus on me, not him. His eyes locked on hers, silver blazing, body trembling with the effort of resisting Cain's assault. His hands gripped her waist, pulling her close. The bond flared like a wildfire, heat and instinct surging between them, unbreakable. Cain hissed in frustration. No, you can't, Rowan roared, releasing every ounce of his strength into the bond. The silver light from his eyes erupted like lightning, coursing through the clearing. Wolves yelped, stumbling, retreating instinctively. Cain staggered, blinded by the sudden surge of raw power. Amelia felt herself lifted slightly off the ground, pulled into the intensity of Rowan's being. Heat, energy, and fierce love pulsed through her veins. Her heart raced, fear and desire mingling in a storm she had no control over. Stay with me, Rowan shouted, voice breaking with effort and emotion. Do not let him touch you. Not now. Not ever. She pressed against him, whispering, I'm here. Always. The bond surged again, unstoppable, undeniable. Cain roared in rage and fury, charging forward, but Rowan's form blurred. Half man, half wolf, fully alpha, and he intercepted Cain mid-leap. The impact shattered the ground beneath them, force rolling through the clearing. The pack froze, sensing dominance. One by one, the wolves backed into the shadows, wary of Rowan's full power unleashed. Cain struggled beneath Rowan's grasp. "This isn't over," he hissed. "I'll break you. I'll—" Rowan pressed a knee to Kane's chest, eyes blazing silver, every muscle taut and coiled with lethal intent. "You'll never touch her," he growled, voice thick with unyielding determination. "Not her. Not me. Not ever." Emilia pressed a hand to his chest, feeling the rhythm of his heart. "We're together," she whispered. "Always." Rowan's grip tightened on her hand as his free hand forced Kane back, silver eyes burning with a power Kane couldn't match. The younger brother's strength faltered under the sheer force of the bond, the combined will of Rowan and Emilia tethered together. Kane's hiss turned to a growl, and then he staggered back, finally retreating, his wolves slinking into the shadows. "This isn't over," he spat, disappearing into the forest. Rowan collapsed to the ground, breathing ragged, feverish, body trembling. Emilia sank beside him immediately, pressing her forehead to his chest, wrapping her arms around him. "You did it," she whispered. "You protected me. You beat him." Rowan exhaled, voice low and broken. "We did it," he murmured, sliding his hand up her back. "Together." The forest was quiet now, the only sound their ragged breathing and the faint flicker of the dying fire in the cabin. Rowan lifted his face to hers, silver eyes softening, still dangerous, still beautiful, still his. "I love you," he murmured. "I always have, and I always will." Tears pricked Emilia's eyes. "I love you too," she whispered, "and I'll stay with you. Always." For the first time, there was no fear, no threat, only the undeniable truth of their bond, fated, fierce, unbreakable. And outside the cabin, the forest waited silently, knowing it had lost tonight. Rowan had claimed her. She had claimed him. Together, nothing could tear them apart. Chapter 11. Resolution. The first light of dawn crept over the mountains, pale gold stretching through the broken windows of the cabin. The storm had passed, leaving the forest slick and shining, every leaf and branch glimmering with rain. Silence settled, heavy and absolute, punctuated only by the soft rhythm of Rowan's steady breathing beside Emilia. She stirred quietly, careful not to wake him, and traced a finger along the line of his jaw. The fever was gone, leaving only the warmth of his skin and the taut strength of muscles she had come to know and trust. His scars, both old and new, mapped a life of violence and survival, but they were hers now, in a way no one else could claim. Rowan stirred, blinking silver eyes open. The first thing he saw was her, framed by the early light, hair damp and glowing with soft golden hues. A slow, lopsided smile tugged at his lips. "You're awake," he murmured, voice hoarse but steady. "I've been awake," she replied softly, "watching you, making sure you didn't sneak away in your sleep and leave me alone with the cabin wreckage." He chuckled faintly, a low rumble that warmed her chest. "I'm not going anywhere." "You're mine," she whispered, pressing closer. "And you're mine," he returned. The words were simple, but laden with the gravity of everything they had endured, bonded by fate, tested by blood, and forged in the fires of survival. The cabin, though battered, felt like a home now. Broken furniture bore the marks of their fight. The floorboards were scarred and stained, a testament to the night the world had tried to rip them apart. But in that chaos, they had found each other. Emilia ran her fingers over his shoulder, lightly brushing against the bandages she had applied. "We'll fix you up," she said gently. "Properly this time. No more half-shifts and broken bones." Rowan's hand found hers, squeezing, a promise and a tether. "I'll survive," he said, eyes locking on hers. "Because you're here. Because of you." Her chest tightened. She had never believed in destiny before, but now, tethered to him by an invisible thread she could feel in every heartbeat, she knew it was real, and she didn't want it any other way. Outside, the forest was waking. Birds called tentatively. Dew glimmered in the grass, and the thread of cane, for now, had receded into memory. Rowan rose slowly to his feet. Still trembling slightly, but strength returning with the sunrise, and the certainty that Amelia was by his side. He turned to her fully, taking her hands in his. "We've survived the night," he said. "Together. Whatever comes next, we face it together." Amelia nodded, heart brimming with fierce love and quiet relief. "Together," she echoed, and in that moment, nothing else mattered. Not the pack, not the cursed magic, not the brother who had hunted him. They had each other. The bond was unbreakable. Rowan pulled her close, forehead resting against hers. "You're safe now," he whispered. "I promise." "I know," she replied, letting herself believe it for the first time in months. The cabin, broken and scarred, was now a sanctuary. Their sanctuary. And for the first time, Amelia allowed herself to imagine a future where fear no longer ruled her life, where danger was met not alone, but with Rowan at her side, silver eyes always watching, always protective, always hers. Chapter 12. Outro. The forest was quiet, the aftermath of the storm leaving a serene stillness over the mountains. Sunlight spilled across the cabin's porch, glinting off rain-slicked wood, catching on the subtle scars of battle that marked their refuge. Rowan sat on the steps, back against the railing, elbows resting on his knees. Amelia slid beside him, hand finding his, their fingers intertwining effortlessly. The bond was present, palpable, but calm now, steady as their breathing, as warm as the morning sun. "You look tired," she murmured, pressing a soft kiss to his temple. "I am," he admitted, a small smile tugging at his lips. "But worth it." She leaned against him, shoulder to shoulder, savoring the simple safety of the moment. No pack, no brother, no blood or magic or half-shifts to tear them apart. Just them. "I never imagined," she whispered, "that I'd end up here. With this." Rowan's silver eyes softened, a mixture of awe and affection shining in them. "Neither did I," he said, "but I wouldn't change it. You're my mate, Amelia, my anchor, my future." Her heart swelled, and she pressed her forehead to his. "And you're mine." For a long moment they sat in silence, listening to the wind rustle through the pine trees, the sun warming their skin, the world slowly waking around them. A sense of peace settled over the mountains, quiet and absolute. Rowan wrapped his arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. "We'll rebuild," he said softly. "The cabin. My strength. Our lives. Together. And nothing can stop us," she added, voice firm, resolute. He smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Nothing." The morning stretched on, golden and warm, a new beginning after nights of terror, blood, and battle. Rowan and Amelia sat together, bonded by fate, forged in fire, and claimed by love that neither magic nor danger could break. For the first time in years, the world felt safe, because they had each other. And that was enough. The storm had passed. The wolves were gone. Kane's threat lingered only as a shadow in memory. But in the cabin on the mountain, with the scent of pine and fire in the air, two souls, fated, fierce, unbreakable, had found their home. And it was just the beginning.